kind of role as a teacher?
Okay, so for me, teaching is like, taking material, like, information about a subject and somehow delivering it to your students. But I don't think that like the role of the teacher is to like take all that information and like feed it straight, from mouth to ear. I think that's kind of pointless. Like as a teacher, my role is more to get my students to do things that are going to make them learn about the subject that we are covering. So, I mean, that's why we do things like reading, but then we don't just say, okay, we read it, that's great, but now we say, okay, let's talk about it, like what does this mean, like what does it mean for you? And that's why like I try to get my students to go out and do things instead of like, just, people always say like regurgitate the information that we've gone over. Because otherwise it seems like, the way a university would work would be to like take the best teacher in the world, record that person, and have everybody watch the video.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, that's not teaching. Like teaching needs to be interaction between, a teacher, a student, and the information. So Socrates, ancient Greek philosopher, like he said that the role of a teacher, or his own role as a teacher, was to be like a midwife, like delivering a baby. So it's kind of like the same thing, like you're trying to bring the student into the world of the information that you're trying to present. So so something like that, that's how I'd be teaching.
Then do you think that sometimes teachers also have to be like a controller to the class as well in some different situations?
So, I mean, there's definitely room for that in the classroom. Like you can, you're steering the ship. Like you're the rudder that's steering the ship, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, at the same time, like you're all on the ship, right? So I'm not getting behind every student and pushing them. Like we're all in this together, and I'm kind of like trying to steer us in the right direction. Mm-hmm. At the same time, that's not always appropriate. Like, students need to come to decisions on their own. So, I mean, in terms of understanding and knowledge, yeah, I think it's right to direct. But in terms of like values and identity, I think that's something that, I mean, we can try to steer students in, but it's something they need to come to for themselves.
So, what is teaching to you?
Teaching to me is a dedicated choice. I really love the job that I do, and for different students I have to use different methods of teaching. It's like one style doesn't fit everybody. Sometimes I maybe prepare something and come, and when I try to present it to the class, it bombs. It's like they don't get it. So I have to find a different way to explain the same concept. So it's a very dynamic process, and it changes from day to day, class to class. So there's no set way of doing anything. It all depends on the relationship with the students and how you can get them interested, how to get them to listen to what you have to say. And it has to be like a transaction between the teacher and the student. Give and take.
And what do you think your role is in the class? Like as a teacher, what is your main role in the class?
I think of myself more as a guide than a teacher, and I can guide them to find the information they need, or I really like for them to come to the answer themselves. I can kind of suggest things. I don't say this is the only way, so because there are multiple ways of doing anything. So mostly it's interaction, and that I can actually have a relationship with the students so they feel comfortable to ask me questions. They won't feel like, oh my God, I'm the only one who doesn't understand this. If they feel comfortable with the teacher, then they're not shy to ask questions. That way it makes me a better student, because then I know if they're comfortable enough to ask me questions, then I know, okay, I'm not doing this correct. I need to change my approach to this lesson. Maybe the method I'm using is not working. Let me try a different method.
Sometimes you have to be the controller of a class.
Oh yeah.
Like, although you
Of
just
course,
mentioned.
of course, you have to kind of have class control, otherwise the class goes crazy and then there's nothing done. So it's sometimes a fine line that you have to struggle, because sometimes you have to be the authority figure and say, okay, let's get back to work. Now this discussion is going way into something else, because we have a set amount of time to finish a lesson, because I want it to be like maybe 2 weeks on this lesson, 3 weeks on the other according to my syllabi. So sometimes the class gets, if you get too close to your students, then they think of the teacher as a friend, and that doesn't work either.
Mm.
So it's always a balance